the actual doing it to justify. But I do think it's a lot. It's a lot to do about very little. I'm heartened that John Bolton actually is on record as calling Putin's interference in the elections an act of war. So it's
in our election in 2016.
Yes.
Mary?
Look, it wasn't just about congratulating him on a sham election or what he didn't say about Britain. It was also the assertion that Russia can work with us on things like Syria or the nuclear arms race. On what planet? There's no evidence at all that Putin is helpful. In fact, what Putin does is he creates problems like Syria, and then he goes to the United States and says, I can help you solve your problem. Just happens to be the problem that I created. So I think Trump has some idea about Putin that's just not grounded in reality.
Yeah, very similar to the reset idea. That's what I'm saying. It's just one
generated Obama's reset.
Obama's one generated an incredible. I'm more interested in the policies. There's a lot more I'd like to see President Trump do vis-a-vis Putin. As I say, I'm heartened by John Bolton. I don't think John Bolton has any scales on his eyes about Russia and so forth. But I'm more interested in what the policy direction.
Dan, when you look at the policy record against on Russia in the first year of the Trump administration, it's tougher than Obama's. There's lethal weapons sales to Ukraine. The statement last week from the White House joining the leaders of Europe in condemning the chemical attack in London. But there is this issue that people raise, which is why can't Donald Trump himself seem to say a discouraging word about Vladimir Putin?
And that is the big question, Paul, which I have said and written several times is one of the reasons people continue to think that there is something to the Trump-Russian collusion story. That may drive people crazy to hear that, but when they see the president going back 15 or 16 months praising Vladimir Putin, having all of these Russian aggressions take place, and then this very week call him to congratulate him, many people default to the belief there is something there. And I think that will just hang out there until the president either explains why he keeps making these congratulatory calls to Putin, or shows some evidence that they're producing policy as a result.
Mary, assuming there's nothing there, okay, and you would think probably would have come out by now, but let's assume there is nothing there and that they have over Trump. It's almost as if he won't say it because everybody wants him to.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible, Paul. He got criticized as well for congratulating Xi Jinping. Similar situation.
Thank you all. We have to take one more break. When we come back, hits and misses of the week.
Come on, Dad. Higher. Higher. Parents aren't perfect, but then they make us Kraft mac and cheese, and everything's good again.
Need a change of scenery? The Kayak Price Forecast tool tells you whether to wait or book your flight now, so you can be confident you're getting the best price. Yeah. Kayak. Search one and done.
Back in the day, our military had to rely on lanterns like these. But today, lighting technology has come a long way. Nick Bolton here with the new TAC Light Lantern from Bell & Howell. The TAC Light Lantern collapses down smaller than a smartphone and weighs less than a pound. But don't let its small size fool you. It's twice as bright as an ordinary lantern. The secret is the genuine Bell & Howell Cobb LEDs that are smaller, brighter, and more energy efficient than regular LEDs. They make our TAC Light Lantern so bright it can fill an entire room with light. And visible up to 2 nautical miles away. Plus, this lantern is built like a tank. It's heat resistant, works submerged in water, and can survive even the coldest conditions. Slide the housing to adjust the brightness for a little light or a lot. Add the fold-out hanging handles, and there's never been a better lantern for the great outdoors. When it's go time, I keep mine in full armor mode. Here's why. Takes a beating and keeps on working. So let's review. The TAC Light Lantern is small and compact, features state-of-the-art Cobb LEDs that can fill an entire room with light, and is built to withstand even the worst conditions. There's just nothing like it on the market today.
Act now. Through this special TV offer, you can get the Bell & Howell TAC Light Lantern for just $19.99, plus free shipping, and we'll even upgrade you to our deluxe TAC Light Lantern, also free. It features a magnetic base for bright, hands-free light whenever you need it. But that's not all. Order today and we'll double your order. Just pay a separate fee. That's right. You can get 2 deluxe Bell & Howell TAC Light Lanterns for just $19.99 with free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-503-7151. Again, that's 1-800-503-7151, or order online at taclightlantern.com.
Zzz, 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 on your phone.
Stuck down here between your seat and your console? Playing a little hide and seek.
Cold.
Warmer. Warmer. Up.
Boiling.
Jackpot. And if you've got company car insurance, you could be picking up these charges yourself. So get Allstate. We're agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Time now for hits and misses of the week, Bill.
A hit for Cynthia Nixon, the former Sex and the City star, this week announced she's running in the Democratic primary against Governor Andrew Cuomo.
In New York.
In New York. And now she's done something very un-Hollywood. She's come out against the tax breaks for film and TV that work out to about a $420 million subsidy in New York. Asked by the Buffalo News about it, she said that these breaks mostly benefit large entertainment companies, and she didn't think it was worth it. So if this is progressivism, we need more of it.
Alicia.
This is a hit to California's pot industry, which is rebelling against high taxation and overregulation. Only about 1% of California pot growers are licensed, and they blame the state's heavy-handed regulation. Land use regulations, zoning restrictions, water conservation, you name it.
And tax rate of what?
40 to 60%.
And now suddenly they're all libertarians. All right, Dan.
Well, I'm going to give a hit to the American people for their common sense on gun control. There is no more volatile issue out there than gun control. But an Ipsos Reuters poll just out shows that a majority of Americans, including Republicans, Democrats, and gun owners, want more restrictions on guns, and they want armed guards in school. About 75% of adults say they want armed guards in schools, and 83% of Republicans want more gun registration. Paul, it looks like there's a solution here if the Republicans and Democrats would just see it in front of their faces.
All right, thanks to all of you. And remember, if you have your own hit or miss, be sure to tweet it to us at JER on FNC. That's it for this week's show. Thanks to my panel. Thanks to you for watching. I'm Paul Gigo. Hope to see you right here next week.
President Trump heading back to Washington this hour. Air Force One taking off moments ago from West Palm Beach. The president leaving Florida as his legal team remains in flux. The president tweeting he would have no trouble finding a replacement for his personal attorney, John Dowd. Now, this is coming as two other attorneys who were recently hired are now stepping aside because of some legal conflicts. Hello, everyone. Welcome inside America's News headquarters. I'm Rafael Neville.
And hello, Rafael.
Here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Shawn. John Dowd, you know, he's not the only recent change in personnel. As you know, the president picked former UN ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, to replace H.R. McMaster as the National Security Advisor. That swap coming on the heels of the firing of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and the resignation of top economic advisor Gary Cohn. The president's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, insisting today, though, that the changes do not mean there's any chaos at the White House.
He brings in new individuals. He takes information from all of the people around him and then listens to those positions, and then he makes the final decision. But what you have to have inside the building are people who are on the president's agenda. He is bringing people in who are on his team to make sure that his agenda is moving forward.
And White House correspondent Kevin Court, live in West Palm Beach, Florida, near where the president was spending the weekend in Mar-a-Lago as he's now heading back to Washington, D.C. So, Kevin, first there's some new questions about a prominent Democrat that the president picked to be National Security Advisor. Not a Democrat, but certainly John Bolton. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you're right. It's very interesting, Eric. We're talking about Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, the former VP candidate. He actually had a tweet earlier today in which he questioned whether or not John Bolton, the president's pick to become the National Security Advisor, could even get a security clearance. Now, what Kaine is referring to is an article, a story basically published by NPR. In it, they referred to a video that the former ambassador to the UN actually did for a pro-gun group in Russia. The suggestion from Kaine is if he's doing a video for a group that's tied to Russia, can he somehow even manage a security clearance? We expect the ambassador to respond to that momentarily, although we've not heard from him just yet. I'm certain he will respond. And as soon as he does, we'll share that with you here on Fox News. Meantime, his elevation to become National Security Advisor is, as you pointed out, just the latest in a series of changes to the Trump team. A number of staff shakeups that we've been talking about. However, the president feels like change is good. I mean, let's run through the list. I mean, Tillerson out, McMaster out, Cohn out, in Pompeo, Bolton, and Larry Kudlow. Bit of a revolving door, some have suggested, but here's how you can look at it. It is either a case of putting the best people in place or example of chaos. I suppose that depends upon who you ask.
You can have a disagreement with the president. He wants to have conversations on all sides, but when the decision is made, you have to be on the team because the president is the final arbiter.
This chaos is not the way you run an organization. I was a business executive for 20 years. With this president, I think he thrives on chaos. Maybe that's the way to run a reality TV show. It's not the way to run the greatest country in the world.
Here's the ultimate take. The president has the right to make changes on his team. Will that make his team better, John? Or Eric, I think that's the real question. Of course, we'll all have to wait and see. Back to you.
And of course, John Bolton, had been with us here on Fox News Channel on Sundays for 11 years. This is the first Sunday in 11 years, basically, that he hasn't been with us as a Fox News contributor. Meanwhile, speaking of changes, two attorneys that were going to join the team, now or not. Tell us about that.
Right. You remember last week you and I were talking about Joe DeGenova joining the team. He's a real bulldog, an attorney that has previously suggested, by the way, that the DOJ and the FBI are somehow trying to frame the president. He's been sort of outspoken. Well, he will now not be joining the team, nor will his wife, who is also quite the accomplished attorney, Victoria Tonsing. That's because of some conflicts. Let me share a statement that we got from Jay Sekulow on the president's team. He is saying this: the president is disappointed that the conflicts prevent Joe and Victoria from joining the president's special counsel legal team. However, those conflicts do not prevent them from assisting the president in other legal matters. He goes on to say the president looks forward to working with them. Meantime, when pressed further, Sekulow would not confirm what exactly those conflicts are. Now, of course, all this is happening after a pair of tweets this morning. You may have seen this, Eric, early in your workday. President added again on Twitter saying this: many lawyers and top law firms want to represent me in the Russia case. Don't believe the fake news narrative that it's hard to find a lawyer who wants to take this on. Fame and fortune will never be turned down by a lawyer, though some are conflicted. Problem is that a new lawyer or law firm will take months to get up to speed, if for no other reason than they can bill more, which is unfair to our great country. He goes on to add, I am very happy with my existing team. Besides, there was no collusion with Russia, except by crooked Hillary and the Dems. Fighting back, as always, is President Trump on Twitter. Now, you may have noticed just moments ago, Air Force One just took off. It's en route back to Washington, D.C., wrapping up a nice weekend here in the Sunshine State. Melania, the First Lady, however, will remain here. Take a little spring break in the sunshine, as is their family custom. Eric, back to you.
All right, Kevin. The president also attacking billable hours, as we saw. Thanks so much. Right, Val?
Yes, indeed.
Well, Eric and Kevin, meanwhile, President Trump is facing criticism after signing a massive $1.3 trillion spending bill on Friday. The president none too happy about the package, even threatening to veto it and risk a government shutdown. Ellison Barber is in Washington with more on the budget backlash. Hi, Ellison.
Hi, Arthel. Some Republicans say the president should have just put the pin down and negotiated a better deal. Republican Senator Rand Paul tweeting, this was a shameful piece of legislation. Congratulations to the Democrats and many Republicans on preserving and expanding Obama's spending legacy. #fail. The day before the president signed the bill, Senator Paul said he was still trying to read through all of it.
As far as the content of the bill, this could have been written by President Obama and liberal Democrats. This bill will give us $1 trillion deficit this year.
The president and the administration say the bill isn't perfect, but it was necessary because of the military.
He is either lying or he is completely delusional. Why is there DACA? Because a Democratic president, President Obama, supported by Democratic legislators, put it in place in 2012. Why is DACA threatened? Because a Republican president, Donald Trump, supported by Republican legislators, announced in September that the program was going to be ended. We don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the presidency, but we produced a darn good bill.
That was obviously Democrats. They're not anyone from the Trump administration, but and I'm not sure if we have the soundbite, but Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin was on Fox News Sunday today, and he was saying that given everything that's going on, that he and President Trump felt it was critical that they pass this now because of some of the concerns and threats facing the military, and he listed a few different countries where sanctions are in place, saying that is why they needed to pass this bill. Anyway, on Friday, Mr. Trump said that he was disappointed with the bill, largely because it doesn't fully pay for a border wall with Mexico, and it did not deal with the Dreamers, immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. President Trump said that Democrats were the reason that DACA was not in the budget package. Democrats, like Senator Tim Kaine, who you just heard from there, disagreed with that assertion, but as you also just heard from a Minority Leader, Senator Chuck Schumer, overall, Democrats seem to say that this budget package wasn't that bad for them. ourselves.
Alrighty, Ellison, thanks for breaking it all down for us there in D.C. Ellison Barber, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark Zuckerberg apologizing for allowing a data firm to allegedly tap in to about 50 million Facebook user profiles without permission. Zuckerberg taking out a full-page ad in several American and British Sunday papers today. Here is part of what he wrote. Quote, "This was a breach of trust, and I'm sorry. We didn't do more at the time. We're now taking steps to ensure this doesn't happen again." And there are more questions now touching on the role of the controversial data firm used by the Trump campaign and others, Cambridge Analytica. Let's bring in Morgan Chalfant, reporter for The Hill. So Morgan, first, Mark Zuckerberg, how much hot water do you think he's in, and do you think he will be called to or subpoenaed to testify before Congress?
Well, I think one thing is clear from what we saw today, which is those full-page ads being taken out by Zuckerberg. He's really feeling the heat, and I don't think the criticism is going to go away anytime soon. This story has extended beyond a week for Facebook, as Zuckerberg has gone on a media blitz, which is pretty rare for him, trying to apologize and clear up the controversy, but there's still many on the Hill that are demanding he come to testify, and I think that may be what he needs to do in order to stem this controversy.
And this also is beginning to reveal, really for the first time, and expose the layers of the onion, the way social media was used during the campaign, especially, we're told, by Cambridge Analytica.
Right. We've seen a lot of scrutiny on Facebook and other media companies. Remember, since last year, Facebook revealed a few months ago that it unknowingly sold $100,000 in political advertisements to Russia-linked accounts. This is a sort of new tenet of this controversy about political, implications of social media in politics and how these platforms are actually being used by companies and others to influence the debate.
Yeah, Cambridge Analytica has denied wrongdoing, but the whistleblower has been saying that they got 50 million profiles of Facebook users, and that was deployed in the campaign. It could be worse than that. Let me show you what Mother Jones is now reporting about this. It's not 50 million according to them. It's almost every voter in America. Quote, "It claimed to possess detailed profiles on 230 million American voters based on up to 5,000 data points. Everything from where you live to whether you own a car, your shopping habits and voting record, the medications you take, your religious affiliation, and the TV shows you watch. This data is available to anyone with deep pockets." So it sounds like, the firm is like this, super secret, shadowy spy-type firm. They say they're a data firm. How deep does this go? And is there any evidence that there's any connection to the Russians or Russian bots that we know of, that they may have used the information from Cambridge Analytica to target American voters?
Well, Cambridge Analytica has certainly attracted a lot of scrutiny in the past couple of months. Of course, there were reports that surfaced last year that its CEO, who has since been suspended, Alexander Nix, reached out to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange about Hillary Clinton's emails. So there are a lot of unanswered questions about Cambridge Analytica, and I think that people are really trying to get to the bottom of it, people on the Hill, and also Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Obviously, these developments could provide fodder for his investigation, given that he's likely to be looking into any ties between Cambridge Analytica and Russia or contacts between them, given Cambridge's work for the Trump campaign. Of course, we have heard people from the Trump campaign describe Cambridge's work as minimal in the wake of the firm actually getting scrutiny. So it's unclear exactly how influential Cambridge really was for the Trump campaign.
Yeah, at one point they apparently were paid something, and they weren't, and they got back on with the campaign. Meanwhile, you talk about Nix, that Channel 4 British documentary investigation really has gotten him in trouble. He's been suspended. He also has testified before the British investigators. Here's what he said in that undercover documentary about the role of the company in the Trump campaign, in which he was asked if he had ever met Donald Trump.
Many times. You have. We did all the searching, all the data, all the analytics, all the targeting, we ran all the digital for a day, television that day, and our data full insight.
Well, we don't know if he actually did meet the president many times, but we do know that there was involvement. So do you expect, finally, that Nix could be subpoenaed or called to testify and speak to the investigators for Robert Mueller?
It's certainly possible. Nix, of course, has interviewed with the House Intelligence Committee in its probe behind closed doors. That investigation has been winded down by Republicans, but Democrats now calling for him to come back, and others related to this scandal to come back and to testify. So I believe that he is a key person that could provide more information about Cambridge Analytica and the Trump campaign and how it used data and how this data figured into not only the political targeting and the political campaign, but also how it was possibly used by Russia.
All that part of the investigation ongoing. You wonder how much information they have on us, out there in the cloud. Kind of scary sometimes, Morgan. Thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Marthel?
Well, Eric, the nation's seeing a big call to action this weekend. March for Our Lives rallies drew massive crowds across the country yesterday. In Washington, hundreds of thousands taking part in a huge march and emotional rally. Demonstrators making it very clear that they want tougher gun control laws.
I think the best thing to come out of the march was the fact that while it was important to stand for what we believe in, it was important that the people have come together on this unified front, I think that the fact that young people everywhere were taking initiative, standing up and leading in their communities showed that we've learned that our voices matter.
Jillian Turner explains now what's next for the movement.
Many of those hundreds of thousands of people were American students directly impacted by gun violence in their own schools, some of them only in elementary school. And yet their message couldn't have been clearer. They're demanding stricter gun control measures from Washington policymakers.
I want to see an assault weapons ban. I want to see high-capacity magazines ban. These are things that, I don't just want to see these. This is everybody. The age has to be raised to 21.
Now, a day later, the consensus in our nation's capital is that the students' efforts should be applauded, and senior lawmakers are weighing in with messages of encouragement.
The activism of these young people is actually changing the equation, and so this gives us a moment to finally do what the American public wants us to.
Even Trump administration officials, at odds with the students' policy goals, are taking care to commend their activism and engagement with the political process.
So I think that there is the sense of understanding that these students can go out and speak their minds, and that's important. At the same time, it's also understanding that the president and his administration, they're supporters of the Second Amendment.
But despite all the sympathetic rhetoric, it's unclear whether Washington will actually undertake any major reform. Just Friday, President Trump signed a $1.3 trillion spending bill, the last opportunity for Congress to enact major gun legislation before the midterms in November, and yet legislators declined to include any significant reforms. While the bill includes some additional school safety measures and modestly strengthens background checks, it doesn't impose new limits on assault weapons or increase the legal age for purchasing rifles and semi-automatic weapons from 18 to 21, something the president expressed support for just earlier this month. Arthel?
Jillian Turner, thank you very much. And by the way, experts analyzing photos saying that more than 800,000 people marched in Washington. If so, that tops the crowd gathered for the Million Mom March in 2000.
A lot of people in New York, too. Well, former President Obama, he's weighing in on the possibility of talks between the U.S. and North Korea. What are you saying about the potential historic summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un? Is the chances of success in getting that rogue regime to give up its nuclear program? Well, is that a possibility? Plus, the president said he really didn't want to do it. He's not going to do it again, signing that massive spending bill to fund the government through September. Coming up, we'll talk to a Republican lawmaker who supports that $1.3 trillion budget.
There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill. There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. I'm not going to do it again.
Our equipment cleans like no one else's, with no harmful residue left behind. And our cleaning solution meets rigorous EPA Safer Choice standards.
That's why I call.
Call or go online for our $99 special.
Certified cleaner. Once upon a time, there was a simple box. Inside it, the most comfortable bed imaginable. Engineered by an award-winning team, on the Casper, life is but a dream.
Try it today at Casper.com.
We took legendary and made it liberating. We took faith and made it daring. We took intelligent and made it utterly irresistible. We took the most advanced E-Class ever and made it the most exciting E-Class ever. The 2018 E-Class Coupe and Sedan. Lease the E300 sedan for $569 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
I would get muscle cramps usually 4 or 6 times a week, indiscriminately. Could be out of my sleep, could be while working. And then I learned about this product called TheraWorks Relief. With TheraWorks Relief, I have never had a cramp anytime during any of my very long days. TheraWorks Relief has made my workday muscle cramp free. Period. End of sentence.
TheraWorks Relief is my choice for preventing and relieving muscle cramps. Make it yours too. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorksRelief.com.
I cannot imagine
managing my diabetes without my Dexcom.
This is the Dexcom G5 Mobile Continuous Glucose Monitoring System. A small wearable sensor measures your glucose every 5 minutes and sends the data to a Dexcom receiver.
Dexcom helps lower A1C and improves quality of life. If you're over 65 and you have diabetes, you should have a Dexcom.
If you get a Dexcom, you're going to be very glad that you did.
Visit DexcomNow.com to learn more.
A Miami Cuban with slow roasted pork loin. Slowly smoked brisket with smoky barbecue sauce. And a New York Reuben with kraut and corned beef. You could travel across the country to try these 3 legendary sandwiches, but apparently you can't bring your therapy peacock on a plane. So just come to Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. Mail letters. Ship packages. All the amazing services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/try and never go to the post office again.
Ugly brush piles cluttering your property? Introducing the all-new DR Chippers, now starting at an unbelievably low price. Chew off big branches that come down in storms, and all the trim from your yard and garden. The new DR Chipper, now starting at just $699.99. For a free buyer's guide and DVD, call 1-800-452-1869. Special pricing and free shipping are now in effect. Online at drchipper.com.
Well, anticipation is building ahead of a historic summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Reaction to the possible talks from President Obama, warning the rogue regime remains a very credible threat. Here's what Mr. Obama had to say to a nonprofit group in Japan today.
North Korea is an example of a country that is so far out of the international norms and so disconnected from the rest of the world that in some ways it makes it more difficult to find ways to pressure them.
Ambassador Kurt Volker is a former U.S. ambassador to NATO and executive director of the McCain Institute, joining me now. So I want to pick up on President Obama's comments. He also said the U.S. must work with China, South Korea, and Japan to combine pressure on North Korea. But regarding his concerns about North Korea's isolation, making it different, or difficult, I should say, to pressure them to disarm. Ambassador, might that conundrum begin to change with President Trump's face-to-face meeting with Kim Jong-un?
Well, I think that he's right in the sense that it is very difficult to put pressure on North Korea, but that's exactly what the administration has been doing. And as a result of that, I think it has created the conditions where North Korea has then sought this meeting. We saw some opening with their delegation at the Olympics, perhaps, but then a follow-up meeting with South Korea that led to this meeting. So I think the combination of demonstrating a very strong resolve to push back on North Korea and talk at the same time is exactly the way to go, and it brought us where we are.
And, of course, though, to think that one meeting will dissolve all distrust for North Korea would be a miscalculation. What would you say that Kim Jong-un, of course, what do you think Kim Jong-un must produce post-meeting? And how much time should he be allowed to take steps towards the United States' goal for North Korea?
Well, I think there are a couple things that people are going to look for. The first is a expressed willingness to denuclearize at some point. He'll obviously attach a lot of conditions to that, but the idea itself that denuclearization is a possibility is an important one. And the second thing is a moratorium on new steps, which would be new missile launches, new tests, new underground detonations. Those sort of things should stop while talks continue.
And I want to play more of President Obama's remarks from that packed hall there in Tokyo earlier today, and he was speaking about Russia as well. Let's listen.
President Putin has had less interest in pursuing arms control agreements, and it is very difficult for the United States to unilaterally reduce its nuclear stockpiles without some form of Russian participation. So at a time when U.S.-Russia relations are strained for a whole range of reasons, I don't anticipate that we'll see huge progress, but just because there's not progress today doesn't mean that there won't be progress tomorrow.
A very diplomatic statement. Does President Trump have a better chance to improve relations with Russia, perhaps better than President Obama did? And how optimistic are you, Ambassador Volker, that we'll be seeing Russia as a willing participant in its reduction of nuclear stockpiles?
Well, first off, we've seen a much stronger position towards Russia under the Trump administration than we saw during the first 6 years of the Obama administration. It was only after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014 that the Obama administration began to toughen up a bit. So I think that's important because Russia needs to see that we are very serious about pushing back on some of the things that they're doing, whether it's working with Iran or whether it is their invasion of Ukraine or whether it is violating North Korea's sanctions or whether it's attacking U.S. forces in Syria. So I think that part is essential. Nuclear issues are connected to this because Russia has been investing substantially in modernizing its nuclear arsenal. It has moved missiles further to the west into Kaliningrad, where it can reach, say, Berlin in a straight shot. And it needs to know that the U.S. is also modernizing and prepared to push back, including establish a strong nuclear deterrent. It's only from that basis, where you have a strong deterrence, that you can actually negotiate arms reductions and arms control. That's the lesson from President Reagan in the 80s. That seems to be the trajectory that we are now back on.
And I want to switch from President Putin, get back to Pyongyang, and show everyone a Fox News poll asking, will North Korea ever give up nukes? Look at this. 76% said no. So if the people are proven right, Ambassador, what is President Trump to do?
Well, the key thing is to try to get them to agree to remove their nukes. If they don't, to have a permanent moratorium on things such as testing and missile launches, and try to then contain the impact that those have on South Korea and on the wider region. But the effort is not to start from saying we can accept a nuclear-armed North Korea. We can't, especially if they're willing to brandish those weapons against us. And we've got to make clear that we are willing to take any action necessary to prevent that if they are determined to threaten the use of nuclear weapons against others.
And perhaps that may be why President Trump has brought former Ambassador John Bolton on as National Security Advisor. We'll find out. Ambassador Kurt Volker, I have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it is a very special day, honoring those who won our nation's highest award for military valor, the celebration marking their heroism that gave us our freedom. That's next. Plus, President Trump and GOP leaders will be taking some criticism for that huge budget bill signed on Friday. Coming up, we'll break down the numbers and how your tax dollars are being spent. Republican Congressman John Faso is here on what's good in the bill. Stay with us.
I think they should give the